Hey everybody, what's up? We're back for some more Saints Row the Third, and this is Stag Party.
Shandi, how's Josh?
Try again, man.
Pierce. Thought I called Shandi.
Oh, you did? She just too busy holding herself back from killing Burke to answer. Hey!
Boss, you gotta get me out of here. He's proposed to me 6 times.
Shandi, this'll all be over soon. Trust me.
Then can I kill him? Please, God, tell me I can kill him.
We'll see. But put Pierce back on before you go.
Yeah, boss?
Heard anything on Stag?
Oh, shit, I almost forgot. They still think we're here at the old crib. Oling and I are thinking we set the trap this time and use it to fuck Stag up.
Let's make it a big one, got it?
Oh, I hear you.
Something see a lot of this brought up the last couple days is I was watching some videos about the Fable anniversary, and one of the videos I was watching was Jim Sterling's, and he was saying that he felt like he maybe lost a little something when he moved to the Escapist, like his writing wasn't as good or whatever, and then he realized
Put
that
the
he
gun
was
down.
basically
I won't run.
reviewing the same
Yeah, I'm
games that he'd
good.
reviewed last
I
year.
felt that the moment we met. That connection.
What?
Forbidden love.
Oh my god, can I just shoot this guy?
Shandi, play nice now. You got the stuff, Pierce?
Allow me, Fred. You did that on purpose.
All right. Let's go stag hunting.
Anyway,
Think you
and
can pick a fight with Stag by yourself?
You have a booty call
what
to
he
get
was
to?
saying
Gonna
was
pick up a
that
surprise for Stag.
it kind of
You know how to
dawned on
use
him that he's
small talk?
reviewing the
Pierce, it's a
same
fucking
games that he
model.
reviewed
Jesus,
last
I was
year. And
just asking.
I did notice that this is becoming a quite the trend. And I'm of two minds of it. One part of me is I can understand sort of where they're coming from, like with The Last of Us re-release on PS4. Yes, there are a lot of people that have a PS4 that didn't necessarily own an Xbox or a PS3 because they had an Xbox 360 or whatever. And maybe vice versa, you know, with the Halo Anniversary Collection, maybe they're trying, well, with the Halo Anniversary Collection, that's sort of a different thing. I think it had started out as like a Halo 2 Anniversary Collection, but then they realized they needed to up the ante. And truth be told, it is kind of cool to be able to play through the whole series on one console. You know, as opposed to having first
Molotovs and
3 or 4
tapestries,
games
a
on one and then
match.
the second few games on a different one, which is something I never understood with starting a new trilogy on it, like at the tail end of a console's life.
Our guests are
Like that'd be
coming.
like
The
Uncharted
party
4
tables
coming
set.
out for the PS3, and then
Careful not to
4,
set off
5,
the
and
bomb
6
when you
coming
get
out on
close. I'll be monitoring
the
Stag's
PS4 if
approach
there were
from
to be a
our
5 and
security
6.
room.
You know, it's just if you're gonna start a new trilogy, why don't you just wait and like they could have probably spent a little bit of extra time on Halo 4 developing it and just made it a Xbox One launch title. But anyways, I'm getting off track. But then I started thinking about it after I watched this video, and there is a assload of re-releases. You know, you got The Last of Us. Tomb Raider came out the definitive edition came out I think January. You got Saints Row 4 announced, being re-released for next gen. Trying to think what else there was. Nintendo had the Wind Waker, and I'm sure there's more. I just can't think of them all off the top of my head. But you know, that is something that is becoming quite the commonplace, which leads to they're oversaturating the market, and people I think are getting burnt out.
All right.
I know
Use that rocket launcher
there's a
I left
ton
to
of
set
games
off
I
the
want to
bombs when
play,
Stag gets close.
but anymore it's like you get lost in the shuffle, like what's coming out and what's just like a re-release, and everything of that nature. And there's talk that there could be a video game crash and all that because of this flooding to the market of, I don't want to say shovelware, but just bad games and re-releases, especially on, like, you know, on Steam you got, what do they call it? I think it's just early access is what they call it. But anyways, you got early access on Steam, which is basically self-publication of unfinished titles, and it's supposed to be like you're paying to basically play a beta, and there's a lot of really bad games on there. A lot of really bad games. Anybody that follows me, if you go to the channels that I follow, Jim Sterling, actually, going back to him, he kind of documents some of those terrible, terrible fucking games that are on early access that are basically just kind of fucking you out of your money, and taking advantage of the ease at which the game can be, or game in quotations, can be put out there. I think Total Biscuit does a few videos on them too. There is some famous conspiracy involving him and A1 Gary's incident, I think. And then recently there was some stuff with Jim Sterling in some games in the dev. Then there was the whole thing with Earth Year 2066, I think it was called. I mean, so it's quite easy for garbage games to be thrown out into the world and unleashed upon the wilds. But I think ultimately what it all boils down to is the consumers need to be a little smarter. And for the most part, when you get into the demographics of the different platforms, I think generally you're going to see smarter purchases made by PC gamers, because with the cost investment, and I'm not saying like people are paying $3,000 to build their computers, but like for the initial cost investment to get a gaming computer, you're generally going to have somebody that's a little bit more price savvy, and does a little bit more research into something before they plop the money down for it. Whereas with consoles, I think it's easier to get away with these poorer games, because instead of having someone that's a little bit more got their finger on the pulse, I mean, a lot of purchases are parents for their children for the holidays or whatever, and things of that nature. But at the same time,
Get down there before someone kills Pierce. A little help down here. Got a tank on me.
I completely lost where my thought was going with that. And basically what I think it boils down to is, and this wasn't where I was going with this, or what I was trying to remember, but really it all comes down to us, and we have more power than the publishers do. And oh, okay, hype train. People hype things and just get all in a frothing frenzy about stuff. Like, look at this, if you look at Destiny right now, and I'm not judging the quality of the game at all, I haven't played it, so I can't form my own opinion on it yet, but there was this huge hype for Destiny, and I was hyped up for it. But outside of maybe 2 or 3 people on my Twitter feed, nobody's really talking about it anymore. They're just kind of like, yeah, no, that was fun. And with the budgets that are being spent on these games and the marketing campaigns, there's a certain expectation on the developers and the public, well, especially the publishers' part, as to what these games should do and be. And I think when they spend that much money, then they're going to try, obviously they got to figure out how they're going to recoup their cost. And that's where we run into these situations where we get back-end costs, like DLCs and things like that. And I think until the consumer base as a whole can be like, I'm not falling for your shenanigans again, you're not gonna get me with your cut up little slices of pie that you're calling a game, then it's not gonna end. And I think that will ultimately lead to a problem. EA specifically is most guilty of this, where some of their games definitely feel like a section of it was taken out so that it could be released as DLC. But, you know, I mean, they're all to greater and lesser extents guilty of the same thing. Probably Capcom comes to mind as maybe the most guilty of all these people. But at the same time though, if people go out and still spend the money on the game, whose fault is it really? Is it Capcom's for throwing the DLC characters onto the disc and claiming they weren't done yet, but they're just there as placeholders or whatever the fuck their excuse is? Or is it our fault for continually shelling out the money to buy the game in the first place? So I mean, I guess you could say that that's the TLDR version of what I've just been rambling on about. So part of it is the publisher's fault, but part of it also is our fault. And you know, the publishers are just going to keep doing it until we basically give them a reason not to, and so far we haven't. But you know, we'll see what happens. There's a lot. The gaming industry is making a lot of money. I don't think it's going to go anywhere anytime soon, but there is some signs that consumer fatigue could be coming. I guess the best example would be to look at how Call of Duty's been doing the last few years and going from there. But oh.
Surrender, kid. We got the perimeter.
Yeah? We got your poster boy.
I want Stag out of my city.
Not gonna happen. Stag's mission is to eradicate the gangs of Steelport. But where to focus the firepower is my call. Release Burke and we'll hammer the Syndicate for a while. Give you boys a little breathing room.
How you want to play it?
No longer shall I hide from my one true love and her cause. Allow Shandi and I to be together.
Prepare to open fire on the building.
I got Burke! Just jump! Move it, people!
You know, but nothing's ever wrong with the building later on. You can come back.
Kia, do you read me?
I see congratulations are in order, Commander.
Not quite. The Saints are still at large.
I'm sending some intel over. I need leverage on the Saints. Bring in the target for questioning.
They're going to run to ground. Digging them out won't be easy.
If it were easy, I wouldn't waste your time.
Understood, sir. I'll find her.
Alright guys, we're going to wrap this video up here, and I want to thank everybody for watching like always, and we'll see you in the next one. Have a good one.